Hello there and welcome to News Express, exclusively brought to you by Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. It is a new week and of course it comes with very big stories on the pages of Business newspaper. Top in the front page this morning, the very first story on the front page this morning, Business AM. Lagos remains Nigeria's most solvent state despite livability challenges. Generates IGR of more than 22 states combined. Wow. And with new VAT law, revenue to get more boost. Interesting. Now that one is going to be our conversation starter today. The next headline on the cover page, CBN faces formidable opposition in battle for Naira's value. So, to control market and narrative, hoarders, speculators, round-trippers line up. Rogue bankers not demanding from M for imports. BDCs fight back, capitalize on loophole in SME Form Q. Just when you think you have one solution for a problem, there you go with rogue bankers, yeah? All right, summary section, we have Nigeria in $4 billion bilateral debt. I mean, just this morning I had a conversation with a senior economist for France and Africa where we had to talk about debt profile in Africa, because this is becoming really something. And on Business AM this morning we have this one on the finance section. We have Nigeria in $4 billion bilateral debt. You want to get more detail, then jump on page 4 of the paper this morning. We have another story here. It says tight Navy September for equities. Page 13, the market wasn't really good last week. I think we had just one or two positive closing last week. But details, page 13, Business AM. Energy, power and renewable section. Undersupply gives gas hiccups. Undersupply gives gas hiccups. Page 26. All right, a company and business segment there. We have Nestle in an aggressive share buyback, page 22, and I'll just jump over to the commodities and agri section where we have Nigeria's $250 billion agro export biz. $250 billion agro export biz. All of that and more. Business AM. Okay, it's time for me to bring in Philip Isapa now to give us more insight into the headlines for the week. Hello, Mr. Philip. Good morning. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning. Can you hear me now, Rachel?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. You're welcome to the show. How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I hope yours was fine too.
It was fantastic. Let's get right to the headlines now. Let's start with the very first headline on the cover page, talking about Lagos remaining Nigeria's most solvent state despite livability challenges. A report by Economic Confidential on Annual States Viability Index, ASVI, for 2020. It shows that Lagos, with a subnational gross domestic product in excess of $50.83 billion, is the most solvent and viable state in Nigeria yet to date. It has even generated IGR of more than 22 states combined. More than 22 states. I mean, we have just 36 states in the country, and we see doing, fantastically well. What is Lagos, doing that these states need to learn from? How can their IGR improve? I mean, these states cannot survive without the federal government's monthly envelope due to their very low IGR accretion. So what can they do that Lagos State is doing?
It's an interesting data that Economic Confidential brought out, I think, last week, and we are latching on it to show, especially in the face of all the arguments that have been going about since I think 2-3 weeks now, regarding VAT collection, yes. Across the country, triggered by Governor Wike of River State. Now, so you look at it, okay, so there's an advantage to Lagos State anyway. It was the federal capital, at some point for a good number of years, and then it was the place where the colonialists came and settled in terms of wanting to make it the administrative capital for what they came to do. But so they have the advantage. Is the commercial capital of the country, is the financial capital of the country, but they could as well be lazy. When I say lazy, there's quite a lot to be done out there if they put the economic cap, if political administrations across the state put their economic caps on. There might be unviability in terms of maybe the fact that you don't have a lot of commercial activities or business activities going on in some places.
Okay.
But it then means that they have to dig deep. No state is, I don't think any particular state is going to compete as much as, compete with Lagos in terms of wanting to generate IGR because of the way they are developed or they have developed over the years.
Okay.
No state in the US is going to compete. They try to compete, but they're not going to compete as hard as California does in the United States. It's perhaps classified as one of the biggest economies in the world, So, but you have to have a sense of some economic sense, to be able to drive what you are doing, to look inward. So Lagos has looked inward, as it were. You recall that there was a time when in terms of creating local governments. When Lagos State was fighting for the creation of local government so that they could get more money from the federal purse, and the federal government came hard, so even stopping allocation to Lagos State, and it gave them an opportunity to really look inwards and begin to really push hard in terms of internal revenue generations in the area of tax, because there's still a lot to be said about tax generation, in terms of how you spread your nets to be able to maximize what's within your state. It might not be in terms of commercial activities happening so much like in, say, Borno State or in Yobe State, but there could be other things within the state that could be harnessed, in terms of revenue generation. We don't expect all the states to be like Lagos, definitely yes. They cannot, but they should exact themselves, and then perhaps with the VAT debate that is going on now, and perhaps other things may be coming up later on in terms of fiscal federalism, to allow the government of states, and perhaps local governments to dig deep, because all it needs is to dig deep, deeper into what does this state have, and how can it be maximized, to generate revenue. But again, you also talk about that money goes to where it is welcomed, where exactly. it is conducive. So what about attracting investment? What do you do to attract investment? How do you create a conducive environment for businesses to come? Because businesses create jobs, they grow the economy. So, and from there you can begin to talk about internal generation of revenue, yes. What you generate internally, because it is not by just sitting down and looking, that revenues will come. You have to do something. You have to apply yourself. So maybe the other states need to apply themselves. You can't have one state doing IGR that is equal to what even dwarfs what 22 states, of the Federation do, because in economic terms or in business terms, if you were to put those states down, they are insolvent, and then of course it's stated here that they are insolvent, and then what you find is that you liquidate them, but yes. You cannot do that because they are states, and then it's not a business as such. But there are things, I've often wondered, Rachel, why is it that a particular state cannot take it upon itself to say we want to make ourselves an example? You understand? Even if our economy is say 5% of the economy of Nigeria, we want to create an economy that can be an example. If we take an example, let's move to Abia State in the southeast, where you have Aba, the manufacturing, the SME hub of the country. You wonder why. There were some videos going about in the last 1 week, about how the place is in a terrible state, So you are wondering, and that state perhaps is not generating IGR, perhaps one of the 22 states that have been put together to say Lagos State, So what is happening? You have Aba, for instance, and you have a government that is not thinking, how can we turn this place into a revenue generating hub, by providing a conducive environment for businesses to thrive in that place, and then as a result of that, benefit from it. If you go to Imo State, which has been a focus of attention for some time by our correspondent in Owerri, you find that there's an industrial layout in Owerri that was developed by late Governor Sam Mbakwe, that has been abandoned for years and years, nothing done about that. Businesses have complained, that what government needs to do to get them working effectively, isn't being done. So you have that. If you go to what we call in Kano, abandoned. Of course, we have structural problems with issues of power supply and all that, some of which are in the hands of the federal government, but states can't do certain things on their, of their own, to be able to develop their states and then to be able to generate the revenues that we're talking about. So that is a serious issue that needs to be looked into, but it behoves on the states and their leadership, to be able to do what needs to be done, to be able to generate the revenues they're talking about. But the key thing is that the environment has to be right for businesses to thrive. The environment has to be right for be conducive to attract investment. In Kaduna State, we've had many, since El Rufai came on board, you've had a number of what's called investment forums that have gone on in Kaduna State, and we of course, we understand that he's doing one or two things to create a conducive environment, but there's also a lot more that is going on there that will not attract investors the way that will allow for generation of internal revenues.
True. I really like the fact that you used Abia State as an example, because a lot of persons, after seeing these figures, would be like, well, Lagos State has a huge commercial advantage, if not over 100% commercial advantage compared to other states, and they would say we can even do better in Lagos State, or the numbers might not be so impressive, but Aba is also a commercial hub, yet it is not, making these huge waves as Lagos State is. I'm not trying to compare both states now. There are differences in other, sectors as well. But if you look at it, I think, as you've said, a lot of things need to be done, especially in areas where there are advantages, commercial advantages, like we have in Abia State as well. But then development experts are saying, and I think I'm of this opinion too, are saying that the value-added tax, that's a law passed by Lagos State House of Assembly, will greatly boost the state's IGRO, possibly chasing northward the 1 trillion naira mark annually. And I also think that it's going to keep each and every state on their feet. What do you think, Mr. Philip?
That's a very beautiful. It's lovely that fiscal federalism is has reared its head, up. It's come up for air. At this time, the thing that Governor Nyesom Wike is fighting this in Rivers State. Lagos State is. There's a lot that will come. Some states will benefit from it. Some states might not. But it will give them an opportunity to really dig deep. This VAT, if you speak to some legal experts, they will tell you it's a no-brainer. It's not a constitutional thing. If it gets to the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, they are going to look at the Constitution, and the Constitution is in black and white. If it's not there, it is not there. So except we don't know. Let's not make a comment on that. Okay. But that's what you will get to see. So for Lagos State, that's a great advantage. There's a lot, what generates, and then what comes back to them. So if they generate and everything is internal, they administer the VAT themselves, and then able to get all the money and nobody's sharing it with them, definitely you'll find that a lot of money is going to come to them. But so will it go to some other states if they put their act together. The key thing is to have a system, a very well organized system, that generates this money, that is able to reach out to administer the VAT itself, and be able to generate the money. And then what needs to happen is it's a good thing that we're talking about generating the money, but it's also good to watch out for how will the money be spent at the end when it's generated, So let's not move from one problem to and then find ourselves in another, in terms of the application of the funds that will be generated. So we're going to see a Lagos State, because you saw the report. The report saying it's drawing attention to the fact that livability challenges, the state, Lagos State is facing livability challenges, and that's you are generating a lot of money, but then you have these livability challenges.
Yes.
It then questions what you are doing with what you are generating. You might be generating a lot of revenues, but you are not what's called applying the revenues you are generating to make life better. So that will be the next challenge. Even if Lagos State with the VAT whatever VAT issue resolved in state's favor, will that create a system that allow remove some of these livability challenges that the EU has talked about. So across different states of the federation, that will be the next question.
True.
We'll be asking, or we need to ask. If you generate all this money, what do you do with the money? Do you create an environment that is livable for the citizens who actually pay these taxes? That would be the next question we need to ask.
Exactly. If we're seeing fantastic figures on paper, then we need to see the effect, in the livelihood of the people as well. Let's move away from that story now to the next one. CBN faces formidable opposition in battle for Naira's value. So, now, according to this article, Mr. Philip, the CBN's new policy to reorganize how it distributes dollars in its control to intermediaries, it has led to a raft of actions in the markets. We've seen hoarding speculation, pushback from beneficiaries of the opaque foreign exchange market, where multiple exchange rates saw many people, including rogue bankers, emerging from the woodworks to round trip the greenback to the detriment of the Naira. Mr. Philip, if this is not working, what approach should the CBN take now?
It's not that it's not working. It's just that when you
people are finding back doors, they already see, opening up holes somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So no. So Rachel, the thing is, when policies come out, the thing is that you're always going to find challenges to new policies, and then of course you have beneficiaries who will stand in the become roadblocks, to, let's say, it's kind of eyeballing each other, So we're saying that with a raft of reports, the past week or two, especially when the Naira began to yo-yo from 400 now 545 or so, that there's a problem because they talk about scarcity, just because the CBN closed the window or the door, to BDCs, and then you began to see this. So what we did was to go to bankers, bankers, especially those who have customers, who are servicing customers, and ask them exactly what really is going on, and what to hear is that, there's still dollars out there, dollars, are in the hands of BDCs, some BDCs, people have made what you call a kill, in the currency market of Nigeria. People have because of the way the dollar is elevated in our daily conversation, in our economy. You find that you have had a lot of people who have who hold their money in dollars instead of in Naira. So perhaps one of the points we gathered from looking at, following this story, is that the CBN now has to find a way to get people, to have confidence in the naira so that they can bring out their naira, because people move currency move their money, to what they consider where the currency that they have more confidence in, So you have people, even in the banking system. Here's what we found out. We found out that banks for the past 1 year or 2 years, or since last year, somebody said, that they've sent out their their staff, to deposit. To chase deposits, dollar deposits or forex deposits, and many banks did that, and since last year they've been bringing in money. Then they know that a lot of people still have dollars in their account. Yeah. Those who do it legitimately, have dollars in their account, but they have not had that confidence to now take it back to naira, so that you can have the market balanced up in terms of dollar availability. So you then have the BDCs who have seen a window close for them, because a central bank used to give them that this $10,000 or $20,000 every week or so, or twice a week in some cases, thinking that they were trying to intervene in that section of the market. But that wasn't happening, because you find that as everything that corruption strikes back, they were using it to do other things in terms of round tripping. Then you have internally in the banking system something you call SME from Q, which the CBN brought out to make it easier for SMEs to have access to forex in case they were importing one or two things for their operation, and that has been turned upside down, because it appears as if in the effort to make it easier for SMEs to access forex, that you don't need to produce from M. And now from M is what actually shows that you are importing something into the country, where it is coming from, to ensure that indeed goods are being imported and being expected,
really?
And then it will alert the customs and whoever, different people that are involved, to show that something is actually going to come in. So without a Form M, it means that dollar, given, I think they allow SMEs once a quarter,
yes,
to bring in $20,000, access to $20,000 or so. So you can have that one go out, right, and come back. That's the round tripping we're talking about, So it goes out, no good has come in, some abracadabra is done, and then the money comes back in and finds its way to the unofficial market, and that's where you have this. So round tripping, and that's we understand that that's been done by what we have termed here rogue bankers, not necessarily a policy of the bank itself, but individual bankers who are trying to make a kill, for themselves. They relate to their customers. Somebody comes in, we want forex. We even spoke to a banker who told us that a customer of his, did actually find that his account has been used, to do from SME from Q, by four banks, of which he was not even aware of. He was not even aware of it. Which means they have sent out money, brought back money in. He wasn't the one that even applied for those funding. So you can see my account is being used. He said my account is being used for this, and then it's my. I now need money to do. To bring in something, and they're telling me they can't do something. So what we have found is that policy has made it even difficult for genuine SMEs to have access to forex to operate. So these are the things that are causing. Some of the things that are causing this naira problem. It's not. We have not been earning enough forex, because of the market crisis. But we have seen, Rachel, that oil prices have moved up, in the last maybe 1 or 2 weeks, but that has not been reflected in how what's going on in the currency markets, especially with regards to naira value. So there's quite a lot to unpack here, and then there's still something that government needs. Not CBN. CBN has got his hands full, really. He has to think out of the box, like they say, to be able to deal with this. How do you talk? Others need to bring out what they are hoarding. Round trippers need to be stopped. Speculators, need to be dealt with. In terms of the appropriate policy measures that need to apply to them.
Very true,
so quite a lot of things. And road bankers need to be. Somebody even said, give them a test of by looking at their own road bankers' bank accounts, and they're amazed the kind of money that they've made from this system called Forex.
You've said it all, Mr. Philip. The CBN, they really need to find a way to stop this leakage. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an interesting conversation with you. We have other very interesting headlines on Business AM this week. We'll see how all the stories develop. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip.
Thank you, Rachel. Have a great week.
You too. And that was Philip Isakwa, the publisher, Business AM, Nigeria's fastest growing financial and business newspaper. I am short for time, so this is me saying goodbye and have a wonderful month. Do this again tomorrow. Bye for now.